This is Library Nerds with Words, the podcast that gives you the word on all the cool, nerdy happenings at Peter White Public Library and the library universe beyond. From books and concerts to search engines and story times, the library nerds are in and ready to show you that being a nerd can be cool. Get ready, get set, get nerdy. Welcome back to Library Nerds with Words, the podcast that gives you the word on all the cool things going on at Peter White Public Library and the library universe beyond, straight from the people who know it best, library nerds. My name is Marty Ackett, and I'm the Adult Programming Coordinator for Peter White Public Library. Sitting in Nerd Stadium again today is one of everyone's favorite library nerds, Lynette Suckow, the Assistant Head of Adult Services. Welcome back to the podcast, Lynette.
Oh, I'm happy to be back.
We're always happy to be able to sit down and chat with you, Lynette. So we are a couple of months into 2024 now, and things have been really busy in the library. We just got done with our community conversation, Media Smart, which was really successful. Our Friends Use Book Sale is this week, and of course, all of the normal services that PWPL Adult Services provides as well, from passports to test proctoring to help finding books and information. You could say that every day at PWPL is a three-point basket. Yes, that is a clue as to what Lynette will be talking about in a little while. But before we find out what the score is from you, another clue, we have to play another game of Word on the Nerd, Lynette. You know how this goes. I'm going to ask you 3 library nerd questions, and you have to answer them for the listeners. So, Lynette, are you ready to play?
Word on the Nerd.
Lynette, this is going to be another game of Would You Rather. I'm going to ask you 3 Would You Rather questions, and you have to truthfully answer them for the listeners. And all of the questions today have something to do with games and sports. So let's get started. Here is your first question. Would you rather play an amazing game of basketball and lose? Or would you rather play a mediocre game of basketball and win?
Well, that's a hard question because I am a mediocre basketball player.
Okay.
I love to watch basketball. Mm-hmm. But for playing, I might be a little aggressive on the court. So, or I'll just stay away from people entirely so that, then I never get the ball through.
Right.
So I guess I would feel better about playing an amazing game, even if the team lost.
Lose. Okay.
Sure. But then, the establishment would rather have you win no matter what.
Absolutely. But I would agree with you. I would rather have like a really great game and lose, but feel good about it because we all played really well, as opposed to be playing mediocre and then playing another team that is not as good. And
they would really be mediocre.
They would be really mediocre, if not poor. So I will agree with you on that one. Okay. So next question, and as you know, the questions may get a little more difficult from here on out. So here it is. Would you rather attend a Summer Olympic Games, or would you rather attend a Winter Olympic Games?
I think living here, I have enough winter already. So I would rather look at Summer Olympic Games, even though a lot of those are indoors, because swimming's indoors, but track and field would be amazing.
Track and field. I think rowing and doing something like that would be really good.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
But, as far as the Winter Olympic sports, I love ice skating.
Yep.
I like when they do the slalom downhill. I just think that is super amazing. Snowboarding is so fun to watch.
Yeah.
So that, I think, as far as watching the sports, winter sports are
better,
really a lot more fun. But I would not want to have to be in the winter things. My brother-in-law, Wendell Suckow, was a luge Olympian.
Really?
And so he was in 3 Winter Olympics.
Oh, my gosh.
And my husband went to Norway to watch him. To France to watch him. Oh, my gosh. How come I can't remember Japan.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
So those were actually fairly, like, within the last...
Oh, they were in the 90s.
The 90s, yeah. That's what I was going to say. So it was like Lillehammer and...
Yep.
Yeah.
Or maybe 89 or something, too. But
wow.
anyhow, okay. Those were pretty recent. So he's been to the Winter Olympics Games, and he thought it was wonderful.
All right. But I will agree with you that if I'm going to be standing outside, I don't want to be standing outside in a hillside where there's a wind and it's 20 below zero. I would rather be standing outside watching bicycles going by me or something like that.
Oh, yeah. And I think the Summer Olympics, their area is a little more contained.
Yeah.
For Winter Olympics, my husband was telling me that they had to ride transit out of town and then take another transit to go up the hills. It was quite a journey to get to those venues.
Right, yeah. I know with ski jumping, they have to have a mountain.
Yeah.
And sometimes those mountains are 50 miles away or something.
Yes.
So, okay. All right, so here's your last question, Lynette. Would you rather be a coach for a sport or would you rather be a referee for a sport?
Okay. I would rather not be a coach for a sport.
Okay.
Because then you have to deal with personalities like crazy. I would rather be the referee.
Yeah.
Because what I say is the law. That's it. So,
and if anybody argues with you, you can toss them out
throw
of the game.
Throw them out of the game. So I get to be the boss for that.
You know what? I'm totally with you there. There's no way I'd want to coach a team. For some reason, trying to get them all working together and all the different personalities.
Yes.
No.
Especially in a smaller city like here, everybody. It would almost be worse. I think if maybe it was in a bigger town, maybe you'd feel like you're being a little more impersonal and looking at people like, oh, that's my nephew, of course I have, but instead you would be going, oh, these 5 are the best, so I'm going to put those those are my beginning starters.
Yeah.
So that might make a difference. No. But referee would be, I think, fun too, because you're just taking the rules and applying them to the game.
Exactly.
So.
I'm with you. Just hand me a whistle and show me where the court is, and I'll be there.
Oh, whistle, yes.
All right. Well, there you have it. We have come to the end of this sporty edition of Word on the Nerd with Assistant Head of Adult Services, Lynette Suckow. And yes, all of those questions have something to do with what Lynette will be talking about today. So, Lynette, why don't you share with us the Word? Lynette, what topic has you cheering in the stands today?
Well, I am doing a display downstairs at the entrance about basketball. Okay. So it's called March Madness because this is the time when all of the events will be taking place.
Yes.
So I brought a whole bunch of books, and the thing I like about doing sports, because, I'm not a real big sports fan, is that you get to go into different topics. I was into social, cultural kinds of things, as well as sports itself. In fact, I'll start out with a really cool book. This is called Fly, and it's about basketball fashion. And it's a big, huge, flashy book with tons of photos. Some are in color, some are in black and white, and it kind of tells about the history of basketball. It mostly covers when black men were allowed to start playing in basketball sports and be recognized, like NBA kind of, in bigger sports fields. So it tells about how they started out dressing in snappy suits, and this is all of the players. And then eventually things got to be really individualized, and everybody had their this is a ref. That's why he has a bow tie. But, just an accessory that would set you apart from other people, maybe a jaunty hat or a different kind of suit. Or then they got more casual and how they would put in the jewelry and all kinds of stuff through the ages. And sometimes it was a different kind of a shirt or maybe just high fashion or whatever. So it is really interesting, and it covers all the top players. So it's pretty interesting, and you'll be familiar with
basketball fashion. I never thought of that as a topic.
This is a pretty new book, because I was going, what? This is amazing. And then that covers a little bit the shoes. But this book is called Chucks, and it's the phenomenon of Converse, Chuck Taylor, All-Stars. So those, the Converse that come up right on your ankle, past your ankle, and they've been around forever. That's all my daughter would wear for 3 years or so. I remember that. So that's interesting that you would find a book on shoes. And so those two are on fashion.
Okay.
But also there's cultural stuff like basketball as a sport. This is called A Moonless, Starless Sky, and it's in the 300s because it's about fighting extremism in Africa. And this particular basketball story happens in Somalia, and it's about a Muslim girl who loves to play basketball, but she gets threats all the time because it's not right for a woman to be out of her place in that Muslim culture.
Okay.
And so it's very interesting, but it is all true stories
it's
in
like
here.
It's like a little memoir thing going on?
So this is, So it covers different topics, but that was her, that one title, touched on basketball.
Starless Sky. That's gorgeous.
It's a really beautiful cover.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's, that variety. And then you get into the Harlem Globetrotters.
I love the Harlem Globetrotters.
Which goes back into the regular sports numbers. So all the sports are in 796, and I think I've talked about this before, that there are different sports and different little numbers. So you go into 796 and it's all sports. Like this one, basketball is .323, baseball is .357, football is .33, golf 352, and then you get into hiking, which is 794. It should be 796.5. It was a typo. Fencing and boxing, 796.8. So all the 796s then are then broken down into smaller categories
sports.
So what do fencing and boxing have in common? Why are they in the same number?
Because it's two people sparring with each other?
I think so, yeah. I think it's like hand-to-hand combat kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah, because then in the next number is hockey and ice skating and curling are all in the same number.
See, that's my winter sport. Curling is like my winter sport.
Okay.
Just like slide a rock. You can, in between turns, you can go and just have a beer or something and just watch.
I think I might go to the Winter Olympics for curling.
Curling, I would do that. It's sort of like on the Summer Olympics. If they had bowling, I'm there because you can have pizza and pretzels and just bowl.
You're in it for the snacks.
That's what I'm all for.
So anyway, so there is a book in the 796.323 on the Harlem Globetrotters. So have you ever seen the Harlem
I have
Globe?
them. They are so entertaining.
Yeah, because most people have seen them at some point. I think I saw them in grade school, and I don't know if it was the real Harlem Globetrotters or if they had shoot-offs, you know, because in the UP, really, who could afford to have the real Harlem Globetrotters?
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, this tells the history of it. And now, if you've ever seen them recently on TV, they have a girl on the team.
Yes, they do.
They are very diverse. They have many colors of people. And so it's really a different kind of sport now. But it's still so amazing. They're just so good.
They're so good. Yeah, the tricks that they can do. Astounding. Yeah.
So I know they don't have a fan club, but I think instead of any of the sports teams, I would be a Harlem Globetrotter fan.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. And then in that same number, of course, there are actual books on how to teach coach basketball. And so those are, you know, for a gym teacher or for a coach, those would be very good. So there are a few on technique, but mostly it's about personalities. So LeBron James has a book of his own. Charles Barkley has a book of his own. Giannis, this very, very tall guy, and he's from another country. I don't know a lot about him, but I do remember that he's Greek. And there was a lot of hype about him because he was super tall. So, so that's kind of fun. So the big stars are there. Let me think of, Magic Johnson. And Larry Bird.
Oh, Larry. Gotta have Larry.
So those are big stars from the past, too. And Kobe Bryant. And so there's a book on each of those. This one is also Carmelo Anthony.
Oh, wow.
So another lesser, but somebody who was famous enough to write a book.
Yeah.
So any basketball star you want to look at, they are going to be in our collection.
Cool.
So that's pretty cool. And then... Oh, wait, there's one I'm missing. Oh, Dwayne Wade. He has a book. It's already downstairs.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's down there. And then I pulled out from the biography section, which is 921, some of these are in biography, some are in the sports numbers, but they are going to be about that one player or their growing up or, their career. So Mr. March is Tom Izzo
of course.
Himself.
Yes.
So from his years at Michigan State. And this is really a pretty book because not only it's formatted really cool. It looks like a magazine when you're reading it. And it has lots of color photos. And then it goes through the different seasons. And this is only really about, his basketball career, which is very long. Yeah. But this is a super duper book. So I really like that one. And that one is in the biographies.
Okay.
And this is about a sports writer's life. There are a few about sports writers and sports announcers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then we have a few on Coach K. I don't see mine here. I can't remember his name now. Bobby Knight.
Oh, Bobby Knight.
Yeah, so Coach K is Bobby Knight.
He's a pretty controversial guy at times.
Yeah, so we have several books on him because he was pretty meaty, nice to write about. And this person is Dave Kindred, which I'm not familiar with, but the book is kind of good. I was reading parts of the book.
Okay.
So it was just about following, and this one is a girls' basketball team, following different teams. And this one, I think, was unique because it's a small town team that he was following, not one of the big sports writers. So I like that. And that brings us into girls in basketball.
Okay. WNBA.
No, I would have gotten there sooner or later.
There you go.
So Brittany Griner.
Oh, yeah.
It's her book. So this was written before she was imprisoned in Russia. So I'm sure there's another book coming out after that because that must have been quite an adventure. Yeah. But this is about her growing up and what led her to basketball in the first place. And then this is the Dust Bowl Girls, about a team that was formed in the 40s, I'm pretty sure, in Oklahoma, and how, they were farm girls, and then they were recruited just like A League of Their Own, that baseball story that was the movie. And so it's very similar to that when you're reading it. And one of the girls that wouldn't leave without her twin sister. And how they're going, well, you're our quota. We only need one. Nope, I'm not going without my sister. So they made her like a driver so she could drive the vehicle around and do that. So kind of those personal stories are in this.
I didn't know that they did that with women with basketball too.
Me neither. When I found this book, baseball. I read it.
Wow, cool.
It's pretty good. And then there's also this one is Cynthia Cooper, and this is a more modern basketball story also. And this one is Standing Tall, and here is the head coach of Rutgers University.
Okay.
Vivian Stringer. So that it's her story about being a coach in women's basketball. So there are several stories about women's coaches because now they're coming to the forefront. In fact, now I'm going to be really looking bad because I can't remember her first name, but Miss Clark, who just got 40
Caitlin Clark?
Caitlin Clark.
There
we go.
And my office mate comes to the rescue.
She does.
Three
Caitlin Clark.
from the outside.
We take it. We take that good information. So anyway, she's quite a basketball sensation, and I'm sure somebody will be writing a biography of her.
Yeah. I'm sure like Pat Summitt. I mean, I think she was a really famous basketball coach, too, a women's basketball coach.
Yes.
Pat Summitt. And I'm sure that there's a book about her, too.
Yes, there is. I don't think I
if
have
you
that,
don't
but I
have
remember.
it, but yeah.
You know what? It's probably on the display downstairs.
It's probably downstairs because she's one of the big ones.
It's a big book. Yep.
Yeah.
And here's another one about when the game was war. And so there are several books written about Madison Square Garden.
Oh, yeah.
And how they would, they maybe had finals there all the time because, like, when the game was war, blood in the game. And it's all about Madison Square Garden. So that must have been like the Final Four kind of place where they would hold those because that was a lot of angst in those books.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me see if I have any others well, Kobe Bryant's book is another huge book, like a coffee table book, big, full of pictures, full of people that he, had played with on his teams and met. And so this is a very, very big book, very unusual. This is the Mamba mentality. And that was a famous phrase, like the Mamba mentality. It's like you have one focus and you stay centered on that. So that was a big deal.
The Mamba mentality.
Yes. Oh, here's a In a League of Her Own. Remember we were just saying that name of that?
Absolutely.
But this is about female firsts in sport. And so here we open up to Billie Jean King.
Billie Jean King.
And there is a basketball one in here, too, which is why I pulled that. Nancy Lieberman is the basketball player that they feature in this book. So you will find lots of male players, lots of female players, and 796.323.
There you go. If you are looking for sports, that is where you go. And that is Assistant Head of Adult Services, Lynette Succow's word for today on books about sports. However, we can't let you leave the Nerd Bowl just yet, Lynette. First, we have to get a book recommendation from you. Something that you think listeners should immediately run to the library and pick up off the shelf. All right, Lynette, what have you been reading that's good?
Well, I am still reading one book that has led me to another.
Okay.
So the book I'm reading now is called The Trespasser by Tana French.
Okay.
And it is the 6th book and last book in the Dublin Murder Squad series.
Oh, so this is a mystery series.
Those.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, and I really have loved that series. But for some reason, this was written in 2016, and I never got around to reading it. So I pulled it off the shelf and went, hey, I want to listen to this in my car. So that's what I'm doing. I'm listening to it in my car.
Yep.
But then this brand new book came out called The Hunter by Tana French. And so good writing. You are very descriptive. She also tells you what the scene is, and it's just like you're sitting there in the room with her. A little bit of background like scenery, but not so much that it distracts from the story. Really good writer. So the brand newest one is The Hunter, but 2 years ago, this one, The Searcher, came out. The Searcher and The Hunter. So these are both a new series. So instead of concentrating on the detectives in the Dublin Murder Squad, this is a retired police officer from Chicago who has moved to Ireland because all of her stuff takes place in Ireland.
Okay.
She's an Irish writer. And he's just trying to relax, but no, you know how those detectives are. They get involved with mysteries. Yeah. Either someone drags them in or they come upon it themselves. And so they're independent mysteries. You can read one without the other, but The Searcher is the first in the series.
This new series.
Cal Hooper is the name of the guy. And then the The Hunter is the newest one.
one.
So I started to read a little bit of this just to make sure it was quality work, and it is.
It is, okay. So Tana French. The Searcher and the Hunter, which is a new series for Tana French. But, of course, there's the old series as well. If people really love her.
Yeah, she has other old series as well. But I just like that Murder Squad because I like the ones with Antoinette Conway in them because she's the only female kind of in her police, and she's having to fight her way to the top.
Right.
And so, it's just kind of fun that way. But also, she's a good detective. And she does have some allies, but she has a lot of people she has to watch out for. So, it's kind of watching your back thing. Whereas Cal Hooper is not really threatened by other people. He doesn't have a job to keep or anything.
He just wants to be in Ireland and relax. And
but he's not getting
bad things. Bad things. When you're a detective, I don't care where you go. You could go to Disney World and you're going to run into like a murder or something. It seems like
because you recognize the signs.
Exactly.
So, it's kind of fun.
All right. Well, that's awesome. That sounds great. So there it is, fellow library nerds. Lynette's recommendation of something that you should pick up off the shelf. And we have come to the end of this sports episode of Library Nerds with Words. I want to thank my nerd MVP, Lynette Suckow, Assistant Head of Adult Services here at Peter White Public Library, for stopping by. Come back next week when I will be sitting down with local history coordinator Kat Shattuck. She just found out about that this morning. Until that time, everyone, stay nerdy. Thank you for listening to Library Nerds with Words, Peter White Public Library's weekly podcast, giving you the word on what's cool at the library. The theme for the podcast is Happy Clappy by John Bartman, used courtesy of Pixabay. This episode was written and produced by Martin Acketts and sponsored by Peter White Public Library. Until next week, pick up a good book, listen to some good music, watch a good movie, attend a great event, and remember, library nerds are the coolest people around.